has come out, but it's 4 seasons in one day, the weather here in Melbourne, and who knows what will happen over the course of the next hour. Let me just say that if it does dry out and not rain again, that's going to be terrible news for Jenson Button, who's going out 5th. But very good news indeed for the McLaren pair of Kimi Raikkonen and Juan Montoya, who will be going out right at the very end of the session. There is Jenson Button. And Martin, I think really, from what we've seen this morning on the drying track, the damp track, it's all about getting the tyre temperature, isn't it? And it seemed that if you get to the point where slick tyres or dry groove tyres come into play, it seems that the Michelins are adapting better to a damp track than the Bridgestone. So if we do get anywhere near that over the course of the next hour, that's not going to be great news for Ferrari.
No, it's not, and several other teams too were struggling in the full wet conditions. Red Bull Racing and Williams didn't appear to have their full pace in those conditions, and at the moment this is a full wet tyre racetrack. I would not want to be sitting where Christian Albers is sitting at the moment, exiting turn 9 and 10 there, because he's hardly run the car, doesn't really know this circuit or Formula One particularly well, and I don't think that car is anything like ready to be put through its paces on this treacherous racetrack. They have far more action on the racetrack here than any other Grand Prix in the world. They have trucks, V8s, all sorts of old-timers, and they have hard tyres or road tyres. They just keep lifting up the Formula One rubber, and of course with all of the white lines around the track too, as it's a parkland road the rest of the year around, all of this Formula One facility comes down as soon as this event is finished, and the track is treacherous and that car's not ready for it.
Yeah, well, one of the other reasons it's not ready for it is that Minardi didn't take part yesterday in the free practice sessions. Minardi boss Paul Stoddart is involved in a bit of a ruck at the moment with the governing body, the FIA, and he was trying to run his cars in 2004 specification without the aerodynamic changes. The car ended up in the court yesterday afternoon. He managed to get an injunction, but he said it was just to prove a point. And in fact, he has put 2005 specification aerodynamics on this car, so these cars are totally legal for the new rules. But certainly an awful lot of politics going on behind the scenes with this Minardi team, and the people who are really going to pay for that are the two rookie drivers, Christian Albers and Patrick Friesacher, who have to go out first and second in this session on a damp track that they don't really know very well. And as you can see, Albers is already having all arms and elbows.
Yeah, his eyes will be on stalks already, and I would imagine every time he touches the throttle, the brakes, or twists the steering wheel, he's waiting to see what the reaction will be. But he's kept it on the road, and of course today's lap time will be added to tomorrow's lap time, so the overall pole time is going to be something in the late 2 minutes or even into the 3 minutes with these wet conditions, as they're added together a new system for 2005, and Albers then surviving so far.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about Christian Albers. He's been involved with the Minardi team for a while. He's driven the two-seaters on and off over the last couple of years. He's done some testing roles as well. This is obviously his race debut, but not a bad runner. He won the 1999 German Formula 3 Championship. Last year he was racing in the German Touring Car Series, a winner there. 25-year-old. And he's been knocking on the door of Formula One for some time, helped certainly by a tremendous appetite within Holland to invest in Formula One. There's plenty of Dutch sponsors lining up to back the right driver. And Paul Stoddart believes that in Christian Albers he has the right driver here. A young and quite dynamic lineup, certainly the best two Minardi drivers for quite some time. Across the line then goes Albers, 1:49.2. It's difficult to give you a reference, but a dry pole time here would have been something in the mid 1:20s.
Yeah, I would. A wet time is a low 1:40s. I actually think he did a very, very good job there, Christian Albers. And at least he set some kind of target, kept it on the road. Others may not. And now his teammate Friesacher has got to do the same thing. We're hearing that about 40 minutes past the hour, which will be 1:40 here in Melbourne, we could see a very heavy downpour. Apparently it is forecast. Can't see it out of the window at the moment, but the wind is strong and the clouds are moving quickly.
Well, we saw that earlier on. It dried out. It was exactly like this during free practice, and it didn't rain again during the practice session. A dry line appeared. They did actually get onto the grooved tyres, and then literally 35-40 minutes ago it absolutely tipped it down. So it's quite possible it could happen again during the course of this session. That would be terrible news for the likes of Alonso, Barrichello, Raikkonen and Montoya, who will be the last to go out. This is Patrick Friesacher then in the second of the Minardi entries. Austrian driver, one of two Austrians in the field, 24 years of age. He's the youngest of the 4 rookies starting here in Melbourne. He spent the last couple of years in International Formula 3000, twice a winner in that series, and well, another reasonably handy driver.
Yes, I have to say he's not a driver that really got onto my radar as heading towards Formula 1 particularly, but he's here nonetheless. His best part of 0.8 of a second down as he's wrestling the car across the white lines in that fast chicane. And Bridgestone tyres, of course, on the Minardi, as with the Jordan, and then only the Ferrari team, the Bridgestone runners, so they carry a heavy workload at Ferrari to match all the other front runners on the Michelins.
Well, let's see how confident he's feeling, because he had a big spin this morning. You can see his hands gingerly working the steering wheel, watching those curbs, the paint on them, very tricky, but he's coming out of turn 16 now, the last corner of the lap, and he has managed to make it round. He's going to be slower than his teammate, though, by 1.6 seconds. So that lap of Alba's comes into perspective. Only 2 runners gone then so far, and in a minute we'll have Narain Karthikeyan, another rookie in the Jordan. But first, let's hear from Ted Kravitz in the pits.
Yes, James, they had to change the whole rear end on Karthikeyan's Jordan after that fire and the spin you saw earlier. But I was just having a look at Narain. He looked so nervous before this run. He's hardly had any laps today, and we've seen that he's liable to overdrive the car when the pressure is on, like it is now. By the way, guys, down here, massive crosswind across the start-finish line. That is going to be such a factor.
Yeah, it helps you into turn 1 because you're braking down into the wind, so you've got more downforce. It's later on in the lap when the wind is blowing in the rear of the car, taking your downforce away. Of course, a Formula 1 car is like an aeroplane wing, but upside down. It pushes them down onto the racetrack. So headwind or tailwind makes quite a big difference. Running, of course, to the new regulations for 2005, they should have lost, theoretically, about 25% of their downforce. And that was as a significant chunk of grip. But of course, the engineers have quite brilliantly dragged a good deal of that back over the winter. And 2 seconds up then on the Minardis.
Narain Karthikeyan, then the car twitching, and he's really putting some effort into this, isn't he? First time we've seen an Indian driver in Formula 1, 28 years old, Narain Karthikeyan. He's been on a lot of people's radars for quite a long time. I've seen a fair bit of him in Macau Grand Prix. He stuck it on pole position there at Macau, which is no mean feat. That's the blue ribbon event for Formula 3. Raced in British Formula 3 with Trevor Carlin, who was enormously successful there. He is now the sporting director of the Jordan team, with Eddie Jordan having sold out to the Midland Group. And Trevor Carlin, a very competent man. And Karthikeyan, he's got tremendous faith in him. He's a fiery driver. He's compared by Carlin to Takuma Sato. Similar kind of approach. Perhaps Karthikeyan could do to increase his workload a little to match Sato in terms of his ability, but certainly the same sort of category of driver as Takuma Sato. And of course, the market's opening up in India with an Indian driver here. This has been a pretty fiery lap from Narain. He crosses the line nearly 5 seconds faster than the Minardi, but bear in mind, as I was saying, that this is the first time the Minardis have run the 2005 specification aerodynamics today, so the gap, Martin, from pole to the back of the grid is going to be immense, isn't it?
Yeah, I think some of these runners, I'll be surprised if Button doesn't come out on the intermediates, and let's have a look at them. They're just about to take those covers off, but that's a good run from the 28-year-old Indian, and his teammate now on track then, but it does look like the Bridgestones are working very nicely in these conditions. It just need to be a little bit drier, I think, for those Michelin Inters to come into their own.
First look then at the final of the 4 rookies. Tiago Monteiro from Portugal. Got a bit of a problem there with the pickup, the throttle. Very, very slow out of that corner. You can hear the traction control chuntering away there. 28 years old from Portugal. First Portuguese driver in Formula 1 since Pedro Lamy back in the early 1990s. A much more measured individual than Narain Karthikeyan. Thinking driver, possibly done most of his racing in France, where he raced in French Formula 3. Done a little bit of IndyCar as well, but perhaps the least experienced in a way of the 4 rookies we've got.
So new for 2005 then, the current pole sitter in this first qualifying, always sitting up in the top left-hand corner of your screen. That is why Karthikeyan's name is up there. And then the 2 yellow zones on the right-hand side demonstrate that This car, Montero, his teammate, is slower in Sector 1 and Sector 2. If he was faster, it would have gone green, and that will help us through this aggregate process. Gone very deep in there on the brakes, but got away with it.
So Jordan making its way around. You can see the track drying out, and obviously with only single cars going out at a time, it takes a lot longer for a track to dry out. This morning in the free practice session with everybody out on track, it dried up pretty quickly over the course of about 15 or 20 minutes, but it's going to take a lot longer here. As Montero comes out, he's going to be slower than Carter Cayen. He has been in sectors 1 and 2. He's a lot slower, 2.5 seconds. Fairly ginger lap then from Thiago Montero. We'll find out where that puts him a little bit later on. Next man to come out on track then will be Jenson Button. We are going in the order of the Brazilian Grand Prix, the last race of last season. There's Pierre Dupasquier from Michelin looking up to see if that rain that we've heard mentioned is on its way. But, well, Button, the first man to retire then from the final race of 2004, if you remember, the engine failure at Indianapolis. So he's the first man to come out on track, apart from the rookies who were sent out. And this is really bad news for Jenson Button. If this track is drying out, this is bad news. We're told he's on the Michelin Intermediate tyre from our F1 ITV pit crew, and this is an awkward moment for Jenson Button.
Yeah, as he mats Carter Cayen's outlap second and third sectors, just checking the track out. So we've got to be looking at Jenson now to go comfortably fastest, the first of the Michelin runners, as you say. And the track looks absolutely ready for these inters. There's a little bit of standing water, but unless you've got actual puddles, these tyres can cope with it, as long as you can keep enough heat in them. But only a quarter of a second up. Now that is surprising. I thought he'd take a bigger chunk than that in the first sector, but you can see that sector's gone green on the map. That's just disappeared from the right-hand side of your screen. And then looking neat and tidy. Depends how the weather unfolds as to just how lucky or unlucky he is. But at the moment, it's clearly some drivers are going to have a drier racetrack to have a go at, James.
Yeah, there's going to be a golden shot for someone. It's going to be about being on the track at the right moment and having the right tyres on your car. As I said before, it's all about getting temperature into those tyres. It's exponential. The hotter they get, suddenly the performance curve just goes right up, and the differential is enormous. You can make seconds, whole seconds, by having the whole setup right then. Jenson Button going into his 6th season in Formula 1. Third year with the BAR team, now established as a front runner, and well, looking for a race win. Nothing less for Jenson in 2005 will be satisfactory. Exits turn 16, and how much of a space has he put between himself and Carter Cayen?
And it's 2.8 seconds. It's the low 1-minute 40s we're expecting in these track conditions. So Button then, just 25 years old. I asked him the other night, is this your 4th or 5th season over dinner? And he said, no, it's my 6th.
3 seconds clear of the next person, but Heidfeld running into the break. We'll see what they do.
Okay, so that's the news that Jenson's receiving from the team on his in-lap, and look how quickly the sun is drying that up. But Button then with enormous experience for a 25-year-old.
Yeah, he's fastest at the moment from Carter Cayen, and next man out will be Nick Heidfeld in just a few moments.